This is the second video in a series on Mathematica, tips and tricks. In this video, I'm going to talk about the palettes. And you can see I've already saved this notebook. I've called it palettes. And you don't have to save your notebooks immediately. But remember that if you don't save them, every time you put an entry in, it's going to beep at you, warning you to save it. And it's always just good practice to save your notebooks as quickly as you can so you don't lose all your data. Now, the palettes are not going to make you necessarily a better Mathematica user, but they're going to make you a more efficient user. So, for example, let's say I'm creating a function called x squared plus 1. And you'll recall from the first video, or if you've been playing around with it, to create a function, we type f bracket x underscore and then equals x squared. And the squared is going to be shift 6, that's the little caret above the 6, and that's x squared plus 1. And then I do shift enter, and you'll see that it gives it to me in a more Mathematica notation where the squared is now an exponent. It also goes in lower to higher order, which is backwards from the way we normally think of it. So normally we would write x squared plus 1. Mathematica is always going to write 1 plus x squared plus x cubed, etc. You can change that if you want. Just come ask or look under format. So the question is there a cleaner way of doing the x squared to make it look prettier, or any shortcuts? And there are. So this is where the palettes come in. If you go up to this drop-down menu palette, you'll see there's a bunch here. I'm only going to talk about the first three: basic math, classroom, and writing assistance. And actually, I kind of think they're all the same. It's just what opens up when you first click it. So I'm going to go to classroom assistant, and there it is. And now if you see actually right here, right at the very top under basic in a calculator, there is my exponent. And you'll notice that when I hover over the exponent that I want, it's showing me the keyboard shortcut entry. So now I actually have two ways of making this exponent. If I just click on it, it appears on my notebook. So I could type, for example, y, and then I'm going to use the tab key, will get me to the next little box, cubed, shift enter, and there's y cubed. Or now, again, you can see that it is control 6. So if I just do control 6, for example, if I wanted to say that g of x underscore was equal to x cubed, and then type x, and then control 6 will get me the exponent. So to be careful here, when I do control 6, I just get the little white part, as opposed to both the base and the exponent, depending on how you want to use it. So there, x cubed, shift enter, and we've got x cubed. If you go to advanced calculator, you can see there's a whole bunch of trig functions at the top and inverse trig functions. You can create matrices. These are derivatives, etc. Here we have our roots and our square roots. So a square root, for example, is control 2, square root, and then control 2, control 5 will give me an nth root. A little weird. And then down here, you'll see what I find especially useful are basic commands. So again, here's my roots and my trig functions. Then here under y equals x are all the commands that I may not remember. So for example, solve, nsolve, find root, etc. We can also look under this d integral sum. This is all of my calculus. So derivatives, limits, more derivatives, integrals, sums, matrices. Lists are for making tables. 2D and 3D are your plotting. So here is the plotting plus all of the different options. So the idea of the palettes is sort of twofold. One is that you can look up different commands and add them to your notebook. The second is that you can look up shortcuts through the palette. So for example, if you're going to get to integrals, which we will do either the first or the second semester, depending what class you're in, you'll see that a definite integral is escape, D-I-N-T-T, escape. And that is actually in order. So I'm going to come down again to a clean line. So I've got this horizontal bar. hit the escape key, and when you hit escape, you get 3 dots, just like that. Type DINTT, and then escape again. You'll see it's trying to give me this predictive typing. That's what it expects is going to happen. Hit escape, and there is my integral, my definite integral. And if you don't know what an integral is yet, don't worry, you will. And this is one quick shortcut to get there. So use the palettes whenever you need to. If you can't remember a command, if you can't remember a shortcut, or something else that you want, a good way to do it is to look into the palettes, because they will often direct you to the correct syntax or to the correct shortcut. The next 2 videos deal with first calculus, so integrals and so forth, and then the last video will be more advanced topics such as the manipulate command and the do command, etc.